Oh, we have SBS here. Okay, we can get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Bill Angelos. I'm here with my co-chair, Alita Camp. Welcome to our first meeting for the year. First, I'd like to welcome two new public members of the committee, Matthew Bauer and Jonathan Hartet. Welcome. And also, I would like to recognize we have a representative from Assemblymember Rebecca Seawright's office here with us. And before we continue, I'd like to hand it over to John to give out the House rules overview.
Okay. Yep, you can hear me. Great. Welcome. This is your first time joining us. You notice you're all muted and remain muted for the agenda, except for the co-chairs. As for the agenda, except the co-chairs, you can participate going to the raise hand feature below, not the wave or thumbs up, as those features appear. Only press the raise hand feature once. If you press it a second time, it'll go back down. If you're calling on your phone, press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking to confirm unmuting once the co-chair is calling you. Chat is available to export only. And for software problems, the co-chairs will not be able to see the chat and won't be able to answer questions. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you may need to go to the React menu and press persons there, or go to More and press the raise hand feature there. If you plan to speak during me, please make sure to rename yourself, your first and last name, and please do not raise your actual hand wave at the screen, as we will see you and chat with technical support.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. So we're here to discuss legacy businesses, which are long-standing small businesses that contribute to the neighborhood character, cultural identity, and economic health. So the discussion will explore the challenges that they face and how the city can better support them, including lessons from San Francisco's Legacy Business Program. I'm sure many of you are aware that many long-standing businesses are under pressure from rising rents, development, changes in the neighborhood commercial corridors, which make it increasingly difficult for them to survive. So what are legacy businesses? So we have guest speakers. We have San Francisco Department of Small Business, Richard Carullo, who is with the Legacy Business Program Manager. He will discuss how the program was created and how it operates.
No, it's you have to have a business account number. So if you have a business account,
I have a PowerPoint presentation I'd like to share.
Okay.
Let's see if that works. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Great. This is 34 slides, but I can go through them really quickly. I'm from New York, so I can try to talk fast. So my name is Richard Carullo. I'm the Legacy Business Program Manager with the City and County of San Francisco. And I thank you for having me here today. So the history of the program, back after the recession, the Great Recession, the rents in San Francisco really started to skyrocket and businesses were struggling. So there was a group called SF Heritage, which is very similar to the Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation. They're a nonprofit organization. They created legacy bars and restaurants. And then they wrote this document called Sustaining San Francisco's Living History in September 2014. You can still find this on our website, which is legacybusiness.org or sf.gov/legacybusiness. So this talked about the importance of saving our cultural heritage assets and really set the ground for the Legacy Business Program. In March 2015, so we're a city and a county, so we have a board of supervisors instead of a city council. So one of the members of the board of supervisors brought forward this Legacy Business Registry, the Legacy Business Program, and created the program in March 2015. Then in November 2015, the voters voted on the Legacy Business Historic Preservation Fund, which were 2 grants, one for landlords and one for businesses. We'll go into that into great depth in the presentation. So I want to just go over applying for the Legacy Business Registry. So the registry recognizes that longstanding community-serving businesses can be valuable cultural assets of the city, and it's a tool for providing educational and promotional assistance to legacy businesses to encourage their continued viability and success. There are three business eligibility criteria. Number one, the business has operated in San Francisco for 30 or more years with no break in San Francisco operations exceeding 2 years. There is an exception for businesses that are 20 years or older if the business is facing a risk of displacement. Number two, the business has contributed to the neighborhood's history and or the identity of a particular neighborhood or community. And number three, the business is committed to maintaining the physical features or traditions that define the business, including craft, culinary, or art forms. We usually just say they have to be committed to maintaining the business model. The application can be found under our website, sf.gov/legacybusiness, under apply to join the Legacy Business Registry. We require two things from the applicant. Application form, which is pretty simple. It's just 4 pages, and then a written historical narrative, which is a Q&A document, which is a little bit more extensive. And then we add to the application a review sheet, which is pretty standard. They need to get a letter of nomination from the mayor, a member of the Board of Supervisors, pictures of the business, and other ephemera like news articles. We've changed the process slightly over the years to make it simpler for the business. Like they used to have to provide us with all of this, and then we just do a lot of the work now and just have them do the application form and the narrative. So we keep trying to streamline it, but there's still a bit of a queue. Takes me a few months to get to an application because it's just me and there's a lot of demand. The letter of nomination that I mentioned is required from the mayor or the member of the Board of Supervisors. Usually they come from the Board of Supervisors because they're more closely tied to the businesses in their districts. Most nominators like to see the completed application from the business before writing the letter. So applicants often just ask if they would be, for like a promise of a letter later down the road. And then we get the letter on the tail end. I thought this was very weird. I'll just add because I came in after the program was developed, maybe about a year after it was developed. I thought this was really weird, but it actually turned out really good because those members of the Board of Supervisors are constantly aware of the businesses that are being added to the registry, and they have a closer connection to the program as a result. So I actually kind of really like this. The registration process starts with me working with the applicant, and then it goes to when the application is done, I send it over to planning. They present it to the Historic Preservation Commission. We have a lot of commissions here in San Francisco. Historic Preservation Commission makes a recommendation, and then the Small Business Commission makes the final determination. And I present it to the Small Business Commission. The legislation allows for up to 300 nominations a year, but a manageable number is about 5 applications per month, considering I'm the only staff person. So that comes out to about 60 a year. We do include nonprofit organizations. We have some really great ones. I don't know if I would recommend that if I were putting a new program together. That's up to you to decide. And then business headquarters can be outside of San Francisco. Benefits of being a legacy business, you usually put them in 4 categories here: marketing and promotion, business assistance, grants, and legislation. I'm going to go over all 4 of these. So marketing, we hired a company to do our branding and branded merchandise. They created a logo, branding, a brand book for reference, marketing toolkits, certificates, plaques. They did like 20 different things: window clings, stickers, postcards. The majority of the work went into designing the logo. And then from there, it was really easy for them to design all these other things like business cards, letterheads, envelopes. So we got really lucky. We had a really good company, Osaki Creative Group. They did a great job with the logo. And if you see, the flame kind of represents the legacy, passing the torch from one generation to the next. But also the flame is an S and an F, like San Francisco, which is kind of cleverly hidden in there. So once you see it, you can't unsee it. But most people don't know that. So yeah, I think they did a really great job. We have a legacy business map, which is a GIS map that's tied to an internal database that we have. It's fairly new. We had a website before this, and we just created this map back in July. So still working out some of the kinks, but it works pretty well. And you can look up things by business type, by neighborhood, by business name, or any combination of the 3. We have legacy walks. We could pick a neighborhood and experience San Francisco through its legacy businesses in about 10 or 12 different neighborhoods. We have Heritage Happy Hour, which is a no-host happy hour in partnership with SF Heritage. We have it at a different legacy business each month, and it's really easy to do. People just show up at the bar, they buy their own drinks, and we average about 40 people every month, which is great. We also have other promotional and marketing benefits, social media. We might highlight legacy businesses. We use the hashtag SFLegacyBiz. Legacy business program can bring a lot of attention to the business, and they're dealing with the city or the press or the public. You know, if a landlord wants to kick them out, they could say, we're a legacy business, you can't do that. You know, even though it doesn't really prevent the landlord from kicking them out, sometimes that extra attention is very helpful for a business, and it's resulted in some positive benefits for the businesses. We have an annual legacy business mixer that's during Small Business Week that attracts usually about 120 people or so. And then we have this other program for businesses that are 15 years or older. It's called the Neighborhood Anchor Business Program, and legacy businesses are automatically entered into that program. And then a company that we were working with created a strategic marketing plan with short, medium, and long-term projects and things that we could potentially work on. We've done some, we haven't done others, but you can find that on our website. So regarding business assistance, we're very lucky here. The Small Business Development Center, the SBDC, happens to be, you know, they always have hosts like nonprofit organizations or community colleges, things like that. The host for the San Francisco one is the city and county of San Francisco, and they're housed right here in the same division I'm in, which is the Office of Small Business. So we depend on them to help legacy business applicants with their applications if they're having like language or other technical issues. They provide one-on-one counseling in legacy businesses, and they assist them with grants and loans. So that's been really helpful for us. And then there's a City Hall point person, which is me. So legacy businesses can always contact me if they need help with anything, and I guide them to the right people. And in a survey, 87% of the legacy businesses said the program has helped their business, and 95% said they would recommend the program to another eligible business. So that's good. Grant. So I'm going to go into this a little bit in detail, but I thought it's important for you to know because a lot of people pay attention to the grants and want to know a lot about them. So I'm just going to go over them in a bunch of slides. The Legacy Business Historic Preservation Fund was approved by the voters in November 2015. Consisted of two grant programs, the Business Assistance Grant and the Rent Stabilization Grant. They did not include a dedicated source of funding, which has been a little bit of an issue. So we were very lucky. One of the mayors gave us $1 million, plus we get 20,400, $1 million for the grants and 20,400 for program expenses. It's in the general fund budget, so it does get cut a bit, but it's been helpful to have that in there. So we were able to keep the grant program going. So the Business Assistance Grant is a form of grant for legacy businesses. It paid up to $500 per FTE, 100 FTEs max. So if a business just had one FTE, it would be $500, and if they had 100, it'd be 50,000. Included biennial CPI adjustments, which are every 2 years. And then the Rent Stabilization Grant was also a former grant. They've both been discontinued, but I'll go over that. It was an incentive for landlords to provide long-term leases to legacy businesses, and landlords apply for that grant. It pays up to $4.50 per square foot, up to 5,000 square feet. So 1,000 square feet would pay $5,000, 5,000 would pay $22,500, and that's annual grant. And that also included biennial CPI adjustments. So these issues with the Business Assistance Grant, it wasn't related to rent. It was just kind of the purpose of the Legacy Business Program. Difficult for applicants to produce payroll reports, which was the only way that we could confirm their data. So it was extremely time consuming to review their payroll reports. There was also a huge difference, 100 times between the smallest and the largest grants, and it wasn't worth the time and effort for micro businesses. So this was in effect for only 4 years, and we discontinued it in 2019, 2020. We replaced it with this Legacy Business Grant. We only did it one time, but we could do it again in the future. So I created this grant. It differentiates between renters, owners, for-profit businesses, and nonprofit organizations, and created 4 categories of grantees. So for-profit renters received 4x, for-profit property owners 3x, nonprofit renters 2x, and nonprofit property owners X. And so basically, you know how much money you have. We did it with $400,000. You figure out which category the applicants go into, you solve for X, and it was really simple. It was simple, it was easy, it was less time consuming, it was more equitable, and it really worked out well. So issues with the rent stabilization grant, we couldn't require the landlord share any portion of the grant with the legacy business tenants. And once the business assistance grant discontinued, that became a problem because then it was very landlord heavy. And about 60% of the landlords shared the grant with their tenants, but 40% did not. So what we did was we replicated the rent stabilization grant as a new grant in a new section of the admin code, and we call it the business stabilization grant. And so we were able, because the voters didn't vote on that, we were able to change the rules. So we just made one important rule change, which was that landlords have to share at least half the grant with their legacy business tenants. And we're going to phase out the rent stabilization grant over several years because that's multiple. Each grant is multiple years. So if it's a 10-year lease, they might have 10 years worth of grants. So we're now accepting new business stabilization grants and phasing out the rent stabilization grant. And I wanted you to know about that because if you look at the old documents online and you're doing research, you might see those two grants and you might wonder if they worked or not. And I wanted you to have the information. Lastly, other grants. So we're able of administering other grants to legacy businesses should funds be made available. So that's always a possibility. And then lastly, legislation. Also on our website under legislation that supports legacy businesses. There's different things that we have, but a lot of it's like some zoning things that some supervisors did where, you can't, if you're a legacy business, you can combine parcels, but if you're not, then you can't, small little things like that. So I'm not going to talk about those too much, but I did want to talk about potential legislation because if I was creating a program, these are the kind of things I might consider that might be easier than grants might have a harder time getting through other cities. San Francisco is unique. Permit streamlining or tax breaks for things with streamlined permit processing with planning or zoning for legacy businesses and or the landlords could be something. Encouraging city departments to patronize legacy businesses could be helpful. Selling commercial condominiums to legacy businesses could be an idea. Maybe a legacy business commercial mortgage, which is maybe slightly more business friendly than the bank loans or SBA loans. Down payment assistance for legacy businesses so they can buy their own buildings and properties. Maybe city ownership of properties where they rent to own scenarios with legacy businesses. So these are all kind of, ideas you can kind of play around with and that we would love to do here in San Francisco. And that's pretty much it. I think I'll take questions, at the end when we're taking questions from everybody, or now it's up to you.
We'll wait for the question at the end.
That sounds good.
Well, thank you. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is from the New York City Department of Small Business Services, Jason Aldali, who is the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs and Special Projects. He will be providing SBS perspective, an overview of the existing small business tools and resources in the city. Jason?
Yep. Hello. Let me know if you could hear me.
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for having me. And also thank you so much to my colleague from San Francisco. It sounds like you guys have a really robust program. So thank you guys for the work you guys do to support small businesses. And so with respect to, I think, small businesses, what I want to ensure I do is focus, I think, my presentation around, I think, how we support, I think, legacy businesses, older businesses, I think, as a part of our kind of general service delivery. I think so. I think, as some of you may know, but if you're new to, I think, what we do, and I also have a presentation, so I'll share my screen here in a bit. But I think the Department of Small Business Services, I think, serves kind of any small business from micro businesses, entrepreneurs looking to get started, to businesses that have been here in New York City for decades. And so while I think we may not have a kind of a nominal kind of legacy business program as our counterparts in San Francisco do, we certainly are proud of the robust amount of services that we offer, I think, to any kind of business here in New York City. And so I'll go into a couple of them in just a bit. And so I'm going to share my screen here. Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we do.
All right, perfect. All right, so and I have a couple of slides here. I'll go through them as high level as I can to make sure we continue to, I think, move through the agenda. But a little bit about, I think, what we do kind of holistically. It's threefold. And so I think while our namesake is supporting small businesses, we also, I think, look to connect New Yorkers to good jobs and workforce development opportunities, and support thriving neighborhoods across the 5 boroughs. And so this includes commercial corridors, business improvement districts, BIDs, as you guys know. I know in I believe in CB6, I think that may include East 86th Street. I know there's some work to I think support a bid formation in that effort. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think we support a great number of community-based organizations and throughout I think the city. I think all these to support, I think, economic development and security across the 5 boroughs. And so small businesses is super important as to our work, but it's I think one part of what we do kind of generally. And so kind of getting into our service delivery here, we offer a lot of place-based support through a device called our Business Solution Centers. And so we have 7 Business Solution Centers throughout the city, and they offer a great suite of services. So from business education through business courses, pro bono legal assistance as well, who can help answer legal questions. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. Financial assistance, making sure you can secure the financing assistance you need, and you're aware of the great suite of financial tools that exist at our discretion and disposal, in addition to a myriad of other things as well. And so I'll go through them at a pretty high level, but I think hoping as much as I can, talking to how these support industrial businesses who are looking for support. And so just so you can see, I think we have 7 business solution centers all across the 5 boroughs, including 3 here in Manhattan. I think, and that includes 1 in Lower Manhattan, 1 in Upper Manhattan, that's on 125th Street, and then 1 in Washington Heights. Now, of course, people can walk into access our services as well as schedule appointments online. And we also have a hotline. I have a number to our hotline at the very end of this presentation, but I think we want to make sure that we are accessible as possible to any small businesses who may be looking for support from us. And I think as everyone here on this meeting knows, industrial businesses are also legacy businesses as well. And so we, I think, have industrial business service providers located, I think, all across the city, including, I think, in the Bronx, I think Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. And so anyone, if you know of any legacy businesses as well, looking for support who are industrial businesses, be it manufacturing, construction, things of that nature, I think we have supports as well. And where we may not have place-based support, we certainly want people to call into our hotline so we can see where we may make a referral, connect people to a service, things of that sort. So moving on to talking about financial assistance, we know that I think access to capital is a big concern for a lot of industrial businesses. And so I think what we offer, and people can find us here at our site, nyc.gov/financing assistance, are tools to ensure that you are accessing the right financing option. We know that I think there are different financing tools that work for different types of entrepreneurs. And so we offer on a tool called New York City Funds Finder, which is an online marketplace of, I think, different CDFIs, lenders, programs within which people can, I think, identify what financing tool works best for them. And that's super important as pertains to legacy businesses, because I think every single financing tool isn't made for every single kind of entrepreneur. So we want to make sure you have what's right for you. Additionally, we also provide a one-on-one guidance as pertains to financing, I think, across the 5 boroughs, I think, at our business solution centers. And the ability to connect you to a network of 40 plus lenders throughout the city. And so for any legacy business that is considering looking for financing support, we definitely want to make sure we can connect you to the right service. I think one of those tools is our New York City Future Fund. It's a flexible repayment program designed to help businesses, I think, grow and with capital that can be used for working capital, inventory, marketing, hiring, things of that sort of small equipment as well. And so this is something that we launched during, I think, last year. So we're continuing to market it to folks who may not have heard of it, but continuing to allow people to know that this is one of the tools that we're offering. If folks are looking for access to capital, here's one of the things you could look through. All right, next, talking through business education, because we are, I think, never too old to learn new skills, and I think never, I think, so far or so, I think, so new to our entrepreneurial journeys where we can't access education. So we offer, I think, free of charge, I think, education, I think, through this the site here that's located, or the link here that's located, I think, on my screen, access to business courses. And that helps entrepreneurs to plan, market, finance, I think, learn how to best manage their business, how best promote their business through online courses that we offer, I think, via Eventbrite. I think both, I think we do in English and Spanish, and forgive me if I'm forgetting other languages as well, but all this are available online for, I think, folks who, I think, have the capacity to take them. We certainly want to make sure we're having as many people join them to learn as much as possible, because we know that small businesses are the lifeblood of our economy here in New York City. So next, I want to, I think, highlight a really important team at SBS, and that's the New York City Business Express Service Team. And so this team was created, I think 4 years ago. I may be misremembering the timing, but they're designed to help, I think, small businesses, I think operate, avoid fines and fees as much as possible. We know that the cost of doing business here in New York City is a lot, and so we want to make sure we are, I think, educating businesses as much as possible on, I think, the licenses they need, the permits that they need, and how best to avoid the really costly fines and fees. We know that Mayor Ramdani spoke a lot about, I think, this team on the campaign trail, and I think ensuring that we support them. But for legacy business, we know for certain that we want to help them avoid, I think, fines and fees as much as possible. And this is one of the devices, one of the tools and teams that we have at our disposal and that we talk about a lot. And so at a kind of a focal point here, and here's a summary, that the BEST team helps to connect business owners to a single point of contact. I think often like an advisor, someone who used to be an inspector, who can help you navigate various different agencies that a business would interface, be it the Department of Buildings, Department of Consumer Worker Protections, to help them open and or run their storefront businesses, again, all free of charge as well. And so this is a great tool where we have, I think, folks who will do for this is one aspect of something to do, like a compliance check. Someone will come out to a business, I think, look at a bunch of different things that they may need to get squared away, so that they're not getting fines and fees at an inspection. And just another reiteration, truly it's an educational tool as well to help you understand what are the rules and requirements of the city that I need to follow to help successfully operate my business, help you to get those licenses and permits faster because you understand the process, help you prepare for an inspection to fix issues before that inspection, and then understand what your violations are and how you can address them. Yep. And again, shout out to John putting all the links here in the chat. Really appreciate it as well. I think another thing I want to talk to is our legal assistance. And I have another slide on legal assistance here in just a moment. But one thing specifically we highlight is our commercial lease assistance program. And so what we offer here is pro bono pre-litigation legal services to help, I think, businesses, I think, with a myriad of services as it pertains to their commercial lease. I think one is, if you're about to sign a new lease, Two, and I think a lot of legacy businesses might face this, is if you're renewing, amending, or if need be terminating an existing lease. I think we offer pro bono, I think pre-litigation assistance there. And if there is a current issue as it pertains to your, I think, lease, helping you understand what your rights and responsibilities are, we want to ensure that you get connected to our I think free legal services here, because again we offer it. I think if often we'll get an email from a council member, assembly member saying like, hey, we need some support here, and then this is a team that we can make a referral to. Right. Next, we also offer support with getting certified as a minority and or women business enterprise or business. And so what we want to do here is, I think, open the door to contracting opportunities with the city to help, I think, businesses both compete and grow. You know that city contracting is an important tool as it pertains to economic development. And so what we do is offer, I think, free support to help minority and or women-owned businesses, I think, certify with the city. And so I think we do a myriad of programs and I think support teams as well. I think referral to services that also do this work. I think try our best to support, I think, folks who are, I think, on their entrepreneurial journey and looking at city contracting as a means, I think, towards economic development and success. I think one of those programs is our Apex Accelerator program. I think another way of learning that has, I think, educational materials as well as different programming, I think, to enable, I think, folks looking to contract with the government to do so with a high level of understanding, to help answer questions they may have had previously, and really try to shine a light on what the process is and how best they can go about, I think, making a bid for a city contract. I think next, we also offer programming for women entrepreneurs. I think additionally, I think also for free. I think this additions to I think mentorship opportunities. I think pro bono legal services as well, really tailored towards helping our women entrepreneurs start, operate, and grow their business. Yep. And under, I think, We NYC, which is Women Entrepreneurs NYC, I think we offer services in, I think, 3 areas specifically. So I think Connect, which offers, I think, mentorship and in networking. So you're operating in a cohort, a community of fellow entrepreneurs. I think leadership, I think workshops tailored towards helping folks develop leadership skills, and then another, I think, series of workshops dedicated towards building financial management skills and general financing skills as well. And I think mentioned this throughout our, I think throughout the presentation, but certainly want to make sure we continue to highlight it. Like, we do our best to, I think, make connections to free legal advice, particularly in this moment in time. We know that there's, I think, substantial amounts of questions folks have, and the commercial lease is just like one aspect, but wherever we can make a pro bono, if not that, a low bono legal assistance, because that's an important tool as well. We want to make sure we're doing our best to connect a business that needs it, I think, to a program that we have and or know of. I think next, I think, wanted to make sure we're talking through business incentives. So we offer, I think, a great deal of like information as pertains to, I think, business incentives. I think for us specifically, I'm sorry, catching my breath here. I think there's a variety of cost-saving incentives that are available to eligible businesses. These are just 3, but we have a team specifically dedicated towards helping businesses understand what incentives exist for them. So like rent abatement programs, I think, to encourage investments into older commercial spaces, and the energy cost savings program to help businesses that are located and or relocating outside of Manhattan, I think, understand how to lower their energy costs. And so you see on my next slide here. So there are a variety of federal, state, and city programs that include reductions in tax, I think, liability. They include tax credits, other energy savings. And so we want to make sure that people are like aware of the different programs that we offer. And so we have this business incentives estimator, so folks can like review the different programs and understand what makes sense for them. We have this like four main incentives triggers. So if you're purchasing property, recruiting and training, I think talent, investing in equipment, and or relocating. I think we have I think educational materials and knowledge guidance as well on different incentives programs. I think next I want to talk through business resiliency. So I think particularly, I think as we've seen in New York City over the course of the past decade or so, from gas leaks to major storms and flooding, business owners face, I think, a bunch of different types of emergencies. So we offer free, I think, workshops and support through our business prep program. We also have a team. It's called the Emergency Response Unit, which will go like to location of business that's facing an emergency. I think we've had the team, I think, go out whenever there's been when there was a fire in the Bronx recently. I think that team went out there, I think, tried to go and help them like understand how best or what they needed to do so that they can go back into business after an emergency happened. They work closely with the New York City Emergency Management Department and other city agencies to understand what the impact of the business was and how best they can restore their operations as soon as possible. And so I think the suite of resources we offer here, I think, extend from workshops and webinars, so educational material. We also have online resources that exist on the My City site. I think some of the links that I think John is sending in the chat go directly to the My City business portal. And I think I have a slide that'll talk about this in just a moment. We also offer is, I think, a free on-site risk assessments. And so a team of experts can schedule a visit with the business so they can review their space, their operations, their insurance coverage, just to understand, I think, what is their level of risk. And then for eligible businesses, we offer like a grant of up to $5,000 for purchase, I think, resiliency equipment and things of that sort. And so I think this is another great tool we offer, I think, as it pertains to legacy businesses. I think shoring up their resiliency is as important as infrastructure ages as well. So it's something else we want to highlight. And then I think next, as it pertains to, I think, staffing, I think we, through our business solution centers and our workforce one centers, we want to ensure that businesses reach out to us if they're looking to get talent. We have, we service so many different job seekers, I think over like 100,000 or so. And we want to ensure that we're connecting them to opportunities that exist at any kind of business, from a large business to a legacy business to a small business. So we want to make sure that any business that is looking for talent connects with us. And then I think one of the last bits of on our slide is our New York City business portal. So it's a one-stop shop. So I think folks can like survey the entire site and they can learn a myriad of things. I think 3 things highlighted here are just to start. So it's like learning like what license and permits you need to operate your business. I think resources from a bunch of different city agencies, and it's available in 11 different languages. And so it offers a great suite of information that pertains to how best you can start and operate your business successfully here in New York City. And so I think one of my last slides here is just how to best to stay connected with us. And then I'll share this presentation with John so he can share it with you all as well. But I think we really highlight our small business hotline that you guys can call in and get access to some supports that I think that I spoke to earlier on the slide, if not more than that. We really pride ourselves on offering free services and being accessible, be it place-based or digitally. And so I think if you know of a small business that needs some support, please feel free to contact them, or please feel free to connect them to us, because we really want to make sure we can provide any support that we can. The last thing I wanted to note, this is not through SBS, but I know it's something that exists in New York State. It's the New York State Historic Business Preservation Registry. And so I think this is similar to San Francisco, albeit not the same. Let me stop sharing my screen because this is purely through text. I think it's another process by which a state elected official can nominate a business, and they'll get added to I think a registry of historic small businesses. I think the eligibility there is that the business should have operated in the state for I think 50 or more years. I think,
That's
so,
correct. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
50 years.
yeah. And I don't have all the information here, but I know that John added some guidance here. So while it's not a city program, it's certainly something that we know that the state offers, and we're really proud of our partners at the state for doing something to I think promote these businesses. And so I think that is all I had for my presentation, and I'll pass it down and happy to answer questions as they come at the end. So yeah,
Well,
thank you guys so much for having me as well.
Well,
Thank you, Jason.
thank you. Now we have Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation. We have Andrew Bowman, the Executive Director, and Juan Rivero, the Special Project Director. They'll be discussing the community-based perspective on preserving long-standing businesses, neighborhood businesses. So, Andrew?
Great. Thanks so much. Yeah, both Juan and I will be speaking. I'll start. We'll go back and forth. We do have some slides, but not quite as many as the two prior speakers, but we will share them in a moment, and we'll try to be sort of relatively brief. But first, we just kind of wanted to talk about what is in many cases the intangible reasons why one might feel that it's important to try to preserve small and independent businesses in your neighborhood. And certainly from our perspective, one very big one is character. It allows and adds to the sense of a neighborhood not feeling like every place else, not feeling like the services or the businesses that you have access to are the same that you could get anywhere, either in any other neighborhood or any other part of the country. We're blessed with a incredibly wide array of very interesting, diverse, individual small businesses in our neighborhood, and they really add to the character and flavor of Greenwich Village, the East Village, and NoHo, which are the neighborhoods that we work in. Certainly, Community Board 8 has many independent businesses as well that help make these places special. Additionally, we certainly find that these local independent businesses contribute to a sense of community. They often are, in one form or another, community hubs where people know the business owners and the workers, and people from the community are connected in some way through their patronage of the business, whether it's formally or informally, in terms of a community that it creates. So it adds that intangible benefit to the sense of place. And then finally, studies have shown, and this is, I think, almost self-explanatory, local businesses keep money local much more than non-local businesses. A chain or a business that's owned by an outside entity, the money that's invested in that particular business is not necessarily going to stay in that community, whereas if it's a local business, much more of that money goes right back into the community from which it came. So moving from that kind of intangible 30,000-foot view, we wanted to talk a little bit about what are some threats to small businesses that we've encountered and heard from the businesses in our neighborhood. Certainly one of them is competition from chain stores. Because of the scale at which they're able to operate, chain stores can often undercut the prices of independent businesses. Sometimes chain stores will very purposely locate themselves next to long-standing businesses of a similar type in an effort actually to push them out of business. So chain competition is certainly one of the pressures that small businesses feel. Of course, the introduction and ever expansion of online commerce is a big factor that's put a lot of pressure. It varies from business to business and business model to business model, but for some, that's a huge factor in terms of the pressures they're facing. Rising rents is probably the number one issue that we hear about. And A very, very small percentage of businesses are lucky enough to own their space, but that's very rare. Some of them manage to have gotten themselves a very good long-term lease, but even the best of long-term leases will run out eventually. And unless you have a very amenable landlord, if you are in a part of town where prices are rising, you're probably going to find your rent dramatically increased at the end of your lease, and not every business is able to meet that. Tariffs, we've also heard from several businesses, have added a burden for many of them. Again, it varies significantly from business to business, but especially for a lot of these more craft-oriented businesses, sometimes that are importing materials or actual products from overseas, the tariffs can be a huge burden. And then last but not least, that particularly speaks to an issue that is germane to our mission, is we do find we lose businesses when the buildings that they're located in are demolished. If their physical home is gone, sometimes they can be lucky enough to find a new home in the neighborhood, but more often than not, they can't. So sometimes it's not even about the owner raising the prices or not wanting to renew the lease, but that simply their home is no longer there. So I'm now going to turn it over to you, Juan, to do the next section.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Andrew. So I'm going to talk about the number of programs that we have aimed at preserving independent small businesses. So what these programs are not, they're not direct services that we provide. There's within the universe of programs that can help small businesses, there are some that are, of that sort. Some of the ones that we heard are of that category, but that does not really fall within our mission. I would categorize the programs that we do have as promotional. Some of our strategies are a byproduct of our broader preservation efforts. And then lastly, we also try to intervene in land markets so as to help small businesses better compete. The ones that you see on the slide right now are the ones that we could classify as promotional. A lot of what we do as an organization is call attention to aspects of our neighborhood that are valued by our members, be they buildings, cultural legacy, institutions, and that is no different with small businesses. So what we try to do is connect people to these places and promote what is special about them, tell their stories, and tell the stories of the people behind them. One of the programs is our Business of the Month program, and in that program, we do features of longstanding businesses that have been nominated by our members because of their contribution that they feel that these businesses have made to the community. They're regarded as part of the community, so we do a feature on them. We feature them in a map that includes all of them. So it is a sort of, in a neighborhood scale, it is a sort of legacy business registry almost. It doesn't come with the grants, but it does come with the added attention that they receive as we promote them through social media and other means. Related to that, we have a program called Welcome to the Neighborhood, and this came up during the pandemic. There were so many businesses leaving that we thought that it would be an interesting story to tell when new businesses opened, because it was not intuitive. These were people who were taking a risk opening a business under those circumstances. And if we understood, or if members who suggested them understood that they were contributing something interesting and unique to the neighborhood, we would also do a feature on them. There are other smaller or less frequent initiatives. Shop and Stroll is, we do as part of our public programs. We do over 80 public programs throughout the year. Some of them have to do or intersect with small businesses. One of them is a Shop and Stroll. In this program, there's a tour of a retail corridor in a historic district. So you learn about the district, you learn about the businesses, you work in coordination with the business association along that corridor, and everyone's a winner. And lastly, in that category of events or programs, there is our Village Awards. Our Village Awards happen once a year, and in a way that is similar to the business of the month, but it's not limited to businesses. It coincides with our annual meeting, and in it we celebrate projects, individuals, organizations, businesses that are nominated by our members and that are understood to have made an extraordinary contribution to our neighborhood. And every year we honor one small business and one restaurant. This past year we actually honored even a landlord. This was kind of unusual, but this was a landlord who used to be a business owner, and he owns a range of properties within this corridor. And over the course of decades, he has rented them, not looking to maximize the return on each one, but trying to do business with establishments that he finds interesting and that he feels create an interesting corridor in this place that was home to his businesses before, and that is his own residence as well. So those are the promotional ones. I talked about preservation, our preservation efforts having as a byproduct a benefit towards the retention of independent small businesses. Andrew touched on one of the ways in which that plays out. If an old building that has housed a long-standing business goes down, more likely than not, that business is going to have a hard time finding a place. Sometimes they do, sometimes they move, and because they're further away from their customer base, they're no longer as viable as they used to be. In addition to that, the building that replaces that old building tends to be far more expensive because new buildings tend to be far more expensive than old buildings. So it is not within the reach of independent small businesses that might have opened in the structure that was replaced. And in addition to that, sometimes the underwriting assumptions of these projects are so aggressive that they assume the retail income from the type of tenant that it just basically ensures that this is going to be a corporate retailer or a chain. And then lastly, another aspect of this that is a little bit more subtle is that a lot of these older buildings have small storefront footprints. And that deters the kind of corporate retail that is looking for something larger. And so in that way, a lot of these historic district designations ensure the permanence of some of these businesses. That picture that you see there is from the Sullivan Thompson Historic District. And there's a lot of there's probably a good dozen of businesses that have been there for decades. I don't think that that's really an accident. If you go over just a few blocks in another direction, you'll find a far more retail churn than you find along these corridors. Lastly, there are initiatives that try to influence retail dynamics. Some of these are informal. Some of these are as simple as someone calling us and saying, hey, this business has been there for 30 years, or being contacted by the business owner, him or herself, and saying, hey, I think we're going to have to leave. The landlord has hiked our rent by 50%. And at that point, we engage in an advocacy intervention that may be as simple as a letter writing campaign. It may involve social media. It may involve a rally. It may involve the bringing in of elected officials to play a part in that. And the idea there is to pressure the landlord to negotiate and give them an opening to be the hero in all of this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. More formally, we supported the creation of an enhanced commercial district in the East Village. This, like many initiatives, the pandemic grounded to a halt, and we haven't completely abandoned it, but it is dormant right now. Nonetheless, the goal here would be to create a zoning district that is allows a far finer grain of regulation than regular zoning does, and it allows you to restrict, in this instance, new formula retail except through a special permit. It also imposes a limit on the frontage of storefronts, except in the case of new, unless they're grandfathered in. So if it's a new building and they want to exceed that limit, they would have to do so by special permit. And the idea here is, as I indicated before, the size of the storefront serves as a proxy for the kind of retail that tends to not go for that kind of space. Beyond that, there are other strategies. Yeah.
Quickly, supermarkets were also exempted from that, if I remember correctly, because we do want big supermarkets. Everything else we want to keep small.
Right. And then lastly, there are other strategies that we have supported or that we might support. Commercial rent stabilization comes in a whole range of flavors. We used to have rent stabilization for a couple of decades, years ago. Arbitration mechanisms like the Small Business Job Survival Act is one flavor of that, and one that we supported. There are all kinds of permutations of this that you see in other cities. You see a lot of them in Europe, where they regulate renewals, and they either cap rent increases, or they're indexed, or they're otherwise regulated, or they simply mandate lease renewals except under certain circumstances. And then lastly, commercial vacancy taxes is another initiative that there have been some talk about. It has never gotten very far, but it's something that you also see in a number of cities domestically and in Europe. And that concludes my discussion of the programs that we do and that we might do someday.
All right, thank you. So are there any questions from the members of the public? All right, we go to.
We do have a question from Anne Seligman, who's from CB6. So Anne, please go ahead. Thank you, John.
I'm happy to ask a question, but I'm happy to hold off and make sure some of my questions, like in case my questions are answered by other committee members.
That's okay. You can ask your questions.
Okay. So I was really excited to hear about this because it's a conversation we've had a lot in CB6, and I felt the folks from San Francisco did a great job in really like some very different ideas. I loved the stuff from Jason, which I thought gave a lot of information about things that we might want to promote to the small businesses in our community that I'm not sure they know about. But I felt like I didn't, and Jason, I don't know if we can take this offline too, but if there are policies that we as a community board can promote that can do things. I actually had a conversation with Virginia Maloney last week about what I thought were hindrances to small businesses. And I'm glad to hear that they pretty much all were raised. But I am concerned that I'm here, like one of our big concerns is really just the empty storefronts and how do you fill those in? And the one thing I didn't hear mentioned was about chain stores that if they move out halfway through a 10-year lease, they might still, be paying rent. They're not making a profit, but they're not going to get out of the lease either. There's Dwayne Reed that across the street that's been empty since, before COVID. So, so I'm not sure. I'm hearing a lot that about kind of what can we do to get storefronts filled? Like, what can we do to get over some of those barriers, I guess?
And if you don't mind, if we could wait until later, I know you offered that, but because we want to focus this right now on the legacy businesses and how they might be supported, and agreed that SBS, thank you, Jason, has so many different
Yeah.
programs, and agreed completely on the empty storefronts because we have them here as in every other neighborhood. But we would, and we actually did have a program of last year. We've had two on commercial regulation of small businesses, because it is again a citywide issue. But for right now, the purpose of this particular meeting is to see if we want to, and if there is a way, if we do want to help to help the legacy businesses thrive.
Totally understood.
Thank you.
And thank you. And I'm actually just going to ask if I can. I'd love to be able to share this meeting with other, especially of my committee members. So I see it, I know it's being transcribed, I assume
It's on
recorded.
YouTube.
If I can get the list of that, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure, John could send that to you once we have a link to that. Thank you for being here and for wanting to share it, because we do feel that it's important. The state recognizes it in its registry, and again, it's a citywide issue. So thank you for that support. Do you have any other questions before we go back to the board?
Nope, you got basically all my notes in one walk.
No, it's good. We certainly share your concerns and your interests. Thank you.
And I may well follow up with some of your speakers as well. So
that good. If I can speak for them. Absolutely.
Or sorry.
Thank you. Then let's go to Barbara Rutter from CB8, and then Jonathan Hardig, our new, as Bill pointed out, our new public member. So Barbara, please. Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank everybody that spoke. Andrew, I want to tell you, I read your emails and I find it interesting. And so many things you said were things I was going to point out. I just have to say that one of the biggest issue is us, the consumer. I remember going to a meeting way before COVID. Gail Brewer was borough president. It was a meeting where they talked about bad landlords, how much they charge. And I got up and said, but we also have to shop in the store. And there was dead silence. And the person running the meeting said, but it's so easy to just click. 86th Street is a disaster. And it's the big stores are going out. Best Buy is about to leave. H&M left. I hear that Lululemon is leaving. The big stores are leaving. It is dark. It is dirty. It's being replaced by stores that are not good, that are not bringing light to it. And I'm wondering if there's some way of not only helping the businesses, but to change our mentality. I'll give you an example. I hate shopping online. I do it terribly. I wanted a new shower curtain. Where do I go to get a shower curtain in my neighborhood? We all talk about Leitner's. We love Leitner's. It was wonderful. I think that I may be wrong, but I get the feeling that we human beings are changing. We're done with COVID. COVID's not done with us, but we're done with COVID. We want to socialize. People are going back to work. And I hear people say, oh, where's Leitner's? Where's this? How terrible it is. What can we do also to promote, to sort of encourage us people to not take the easy way? Amazon is easy, it's cheap, it's easy to return stuff. What can we do? Because it's very important to get our businesses, and the small businesses particularly. And I'm heartbroken. I moved in here at 87th Street and 2nd Avenue in 2001. One of the reasons I took this apartment rather than another is because of 86th Street. It was wonderful, and it is horrible now. And what can we do to change the mentality of us, the users, not to sit all alone in front of our computer and click all the time?
Oh, maybe that's where our support for small business, for legacy businesses comes in.
Right.
But I don't know, is San Francisco having, Rick, the same issues in terms of online shopping as New York City is?
Yeah, I would definitely say that's the case. Yep, for sure. I have this fantasy of doing like a legacy business Amazon where people can go online and see all the products that the legacy businesses have to offer and, just order them online and they get picked up from the storefront and delivered. Because yeah, even my roommate shops Amazon and I yell at him I put little notes on the packages. I put them next to his door. So yeah, it's definitely a big problem here for sure.
Thank you. Andrew, John, you could leave all of the speakers unmuted. Andrew, go ahead. And Juan?
Thanks. Yeah, I had muted myself because I sneezed, and I think that that engendered my being kicked out. I just wanted to quickly respond to Barbara. For what it's worth, and Juan described this in some detail. We do these very in-depth promotional programs because we try to give people a kind of emotional connection to and an insight into what makes these businesses so special, so that they feel like even if they've never been in there, they know the owner, they know the story behind it, they know the story behind its products, they know the story behind the idea that gave birth to this place, so that it will make it more appealing for people to go into this store where they get it, that there's people attached to it, as opposed to a place where maybe it's cheaper, maybe it's quicker, maybe it's just more convenient or more familiar, but it's more faceless. So I hear you on that struggle, and certainly a good part of the programming that we do is oriented towards trying to get people to make that decision where they say, I like it more going to this place, and I feel more value in going to this place rather than the quicker, easier one somewhere else.
Am I still unmuted? Can I
Yes. Yeah, Barbara, it's okay.
I want to add one other thing. We also need stores that meet the need. So we need a houseware store around 86th Street. I can't buy his shower curtains without going online at this point. We need personal items like underwear around and things like that we need. So if we could also encourage not cutesy businesses, and we don't need another facial spa. But we need the practical businesses also that are nice, that are, would be fun to go into. I think that would be good also. Maybe we need Matt Bauer and Andrew Berman to come to 86th Street.
Well, Matt Bauer is one of our new public members, so I think he's also raised his hand, so we'll get to you,
okay.
Matt.
But I want you here.
It sounds, Andrew, like what you're saying is fostering that human connection and promoting, and it's the same thing from Rick as well, promoting a tie to the small businesses that have been here and building community in that sense is what's really important, and helps to differentiate the small mom and pop or girl or boy next door versus Target versus the Lululemon versus the big chains. And that's what helps bring people into these businesses. And that's why it sounds like the promotion has worked in San Francisco, and your ways of promoting it, which are also very personal down in the village.
Kind of building on what Andrew said, in our legacy business registry application, we have that Q&A document, and we ask them lots of different questions to make sure they meet the 3 eligibility criteria. But we make sure that we call them narratives, are, kind of masterpieces when they're done, and they're really interesting, and they tell the story and the history of the business. And there's an effort to streamline the applications because a lot of effort goes into making sure those are good. But I resist that. I think people want to know those histories, and it makes it really special to read those narratives.
And if I could
If I could add on the more pragmatic level, beyond the question of a personal connection and feeling that this is that you're investing in the community by going to these places. When I do the features on these businesses, I ask them directly, who are your competitors? How do you deal with these challenges? And obviously, the susceptibility of businesses vary by their business model and by their product. But in many of the cases, a question of education, of saying, hey, you're actually not saving that much money or any money at all by going through Amazon. This place, if you go to this hardware store, they will have what you want and they're going to be able to solve the problem for you. And like that, there are many. I mean, the answer varies by the type of business, but it is no act. And so it's a process of education. There is a business in our neighborhood called Locavore. And Locavore is owned by this woman who had a store on the Lower East Side that sold only pencils. And that closed during the pandemic. And she decided to make it her mission to inform people about independent small businesses. And she spent the next 2 years walking every neighborhood in the city and creating a directory that is online and that informs people of all the independent small businesses out there. So a lot of what she does and a lot of what I'm hoping we do is educate people about the options that are there. I speak to, I've interviewed book owners of bookstores who tell me that people come in and they look at a book and they take out their phone and with a button they could save $5. In that case, it is on him to educate that consumer about what you're paying for that extra $5 and what you're providing there. And we have seen an increase in the number of bookstores. It's not what it was 30 years ago, but it is more than it was 10 years ago. And it is because a lot of these businesses have succeeded in finding some way of providing of complementing their book selling operation with something that people need. So a lot of that is, part of it is education, part of it is adapting the business model, and part of it is, as Andrew said, communicating what's at stake and who you're engaging with and what kind of community you want around you.
Thank you. Jason, did you want to add anything?
Oh, the only thing I wanted to add was we know that like marketing is so important in this day and age, and I think one thing that we offer and this goes to one on business education. We offer like business courses on like marketing, digital marketing, and things of that sort. Because I know it's something that's super important for legacy businesses and in attracting folks and foot traffic. And then additionally, and I know that I believe that the CBO is called I think it might be misremembering the name. It's like Carnegie Hill Neighbors. I know I think we're working with them rather, on a bid formation effort. And we know that business improvement districts have been really instrumental in increasing foot traffic on commercial corridors throughout New York City. And so that's another like partner that we're working with like on this effort, specifically looking at 86th Street on the Upper East Side, on like how best to attract businesses. And I know there's different bids. I think there's like a Madison Avenue bid. There might be like a sliver of like Fifth Avenue and East Midtown bid in the community board's catchment. But we know that they're really powerful partners in increasing, I think, foot traffic and getting more people, I think, into stores, which I think is a crucial part of this conversation as well.
Very, very much so. Thank you. So we'll just go to a couple of members of the public before we go to you, Jonathan and Matt. Thank you for your patience. John, could you unmute Julian Chapin?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So I actually just had listening to Barbara Rutter, what you were saying before, I had a suggestion, a question for you. First of all, if you're looking for a shower curtain, I would suggest, I don't know if you've heard of this place, Rainbow Hardware. It's independently owned. It's on First Avenue and like 75th or so. Maybe you could find one there. And my question for you is, you were sort of drawing a comparison between 86th Street now, kind of like talking negatively about it, how it's gotten worse versus when you moved to the area in 2001. And I'm just wondering if you could like describe for us. I would have just asked you this in the chat, but it wasn't working for me, which is why I put my hand up. Like, what was it like 25 years ago? What sort of things were going on there? What businesses compared to the bigger stores today? Thanks.
You can answer that, Barbara, briefly.
Barbara, you're muted.
Like.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
No.
No, now you muted yourself. Go ahead, John. There you go. You're
Okay.
unmuted, Barbara.
Okay, I can tell you a couple of things. One was there was a wonderful baby store. It was fantastic. And I had a young grandchild coming, and I was able to go in there, and they just said, oh, this is what you want. This is the type of stroller that will last a short amount of time. What they said is nothing to do with the rent, nothing to do with that. People come in, they had the service where they would run downstairs to get the carriage that you're looking for, bring it up, they would deliver it to you, and so on. But they said people are coming in, looking at the carriage, trying it out, and going home and getting it online. So that's one store. Another store was Leitner's, a wonderful hardware store. I know Rainbow. Rainbow is far from me. I mean, it's not my neighborhood anymore. I live on 87th Street. I know Rainbow and it's fine, but it's not a small little neighborhood store like Leitner's. I would go in to buy one thing and literally come out with 5 things. Because they had little doodads and things that I never, and I would ask opinions and they would tell me which blanket to get and so on. There was a little store that was from Argentina or something, the most delightful 2 women. Most of the things I couldn't do, but I bought a hat there and a scarf there. It was mostly for younger and thinner people than I am, but it was a beautiful store. There was, Best Buy is going, I'm trying to remember what else was there. The movie theater. How many years that movie theater? It's way before COVID. It has to be a minimum of 10 years. It's disgusting looking. There was, I'm trying to remember, it's hard, but that's an idea. There was some restaurant that was a nice restaurant that's there. We now have Mimi's that's supposed to be good pizza, but it's dirty and people eat outside. And we know from the community board that people complain because they
without anything negative about the current.
No, I don't want to. No, and it's there, but it's not what it was before. And it was so clean. It was unbelievably clean, and it's not clean now. They try, but it's not clean anymore.
So what you're just
yeah,
what you're describing is a row. It sounds like a row of small businesses that satisfy different needs for
absolutely, absolutely. That there was anything. Oh, there was a lingerie store, not just the famous one, but there was another lingerie store there that I used to go to. There was another clothing store to pick up the practicals that were there. And I could go on. It was just a delightful street because we didn't have the Q train. I used to walk to the 6 train and just pass by all of these stores, and I did all my shopping right around there.
Thank you, Barbara. I think a lot of us miss the small businesses that have been in the neighborhood and are no longer here. Caroline King, John.
Hi. I'm thrilled to hear you mention Carnegie Hill's Neighbors work on a bid. I work with Carnegie Hill Neighbors, and we are working on the Yorkville Alliance. And the whole point is exactly to bring back the mom and pop stores and also to create. I mean, how wonderful would it be to have a greenway from Fifth Avenue Central Park to Carl Schurz Park with plantings and beautiful horticulture and clean streets and no litter. Well, maybe a little litter, but and lots of smaller restaurants and independent businesses. And if you would like more information, we have a website. It's bid86.org. And also you can email me, Caroline, CAROLINE at chneighbors.org. And I would be delighted to talk to you about the Yorkville Alliance effort. We're in the outreach phase. So if you live in the neighborhood, if you live in the boundaries, or you know people who work at businesses in the boundaries, we need as many support ballots as we can get. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I posted in the chat. Just wanted to let you know also.
Great. Thank you. And for those who could hear the cacophony of horns, I do not know what's going on outside my street, but it's not pleasant sitting here. Jonathan, thanks for your patience. And welcome.
Thanks. Oh, thank you. Great to be here and to hear everybody's different stories and opinions and impressions of the neighborhood. It's funny because I actually grew up on 86th Street, so I had a firsthand view of how it changed in the last 30 something years. I do remember Leightoners a lot. We went in all the time and spent way too much money. It was like the Whole Foods of its time. I think one of the issues that people are having, I'm not sure if this is something that can be done. Everybody, stores open, close, decide to move based on how much foot traffic, how much money they make, and people sort of vote essentially for their stores with their wallets, right? So I guess this question would be sort of for you, Jason. Maybe there's some sort of an incentive program that can be done to encourage people to shop local, like physically, like sometimes you might have on like the credit card where there's like, oh, you get a discount or you get this back. Maybe there could be a grant that could go towards stores or other legacy businesses that struggle with getting foot traffic now that, especially with the Q train, plenty of people who come to, Upper East Side don't actually necessarily live there. So they're not going to necessarily be walking around and, decide to go into this bakery, or they're going to go into this lingerie store, they're going to go to this market because they're just there for work or to meet someone at a specific restaurant or what have you. Maybe there's some sort of a shop local incentive. It could be like $1,000 grant towards like a store, and they can use it to get discounts or a good neighbor discount or what have you. Is that something that's been thought of or tested and didn't work? Or
I think that's a great. I see your line of thinking of just like how best to like incentivize folks and support the businesses that are trying to incentivize folks into, I think, increasing foot traffic. And so I think in that regard, I think to the first thing you had noted on I think like a tax incentive. So I know, well, I think largely like with tax incentive, that's like a state measure. 'Cause I think we have the city has like a limited like authority around like taxes, things of that sort. And so I know whenever there's like a discussion on like tax incentives, we're always looking to our partner like at the state level. But with respect to like what we do and like what's particularly in our capacity with respect to like getting folks in, and it's less of a, I guess, financing tool, in just to preface. But I know in terms of increasing foot traffic and letting folks like visibly see like what exists on like a given like street. I know everyone's seen like the Link NYC like kiosks, like I think a lot of people are seeing right now a lot of like the Zoran like childcare, I think, ads. I think that's something that it's a training we offer as to how businesses can like market themselves on that. But I think like thinking outside of that, I think what we try to do where we can is, I think, talk to different like CBOs who I think the businesses like on a given like strip or street. I think the best, like how best can we like market like our businesses, because every commercial corridor is like a little bit different, and like every single like store has a different need and different niche as it pertains to their customer base. And so what we try to do through our neighborhood development division is work with CBOs and merchants associations on how best can we support you in supporting your merchants and supporting people like getting on. And so I think we do offer a merchants association grant to the CBOs who are doing that work, to support them and to support I think their efforts. And while that's not a grant, and I want to be completely transparent with you, that is not a grant specifically for businesses, I think it's a means of offering that kind of support. I think towards the people who are dedicated like to that work. I think like a Carnegie Hill neighbors who are like looking and are organizing like on behalf of the merchants and saying like this is what they need, and we have the best tool to provide that, so to speak. So,
yeah. That makes sense. But what about, I know you're talking about towards more tax incentives, but what about like specifically like a grant of an actual amount of money, like $1,000, and then it could be go towards like however the CBO or a future bid wants to distribute it among, like awarded to a specific store or a business or what have you.
Yeah. So we don't offer like a current grant program like that. I'm certainly, I think it's been nice to hear from like San Francisco and seeing what like a city like offers in that regard. And so like certainly happy to discuss more like what that looked like. And like I think all kind of grant programs like necessitate a certain amount of like capital. And so like certainly like open to listening to like how that kind of I think program like I think grew up. I think what was needed to like get it forward. And I think I know John put there's a 2022 like a proposal I think from the current speaker Julie Menon on like a grant program that she like thought of and I think proposed previously and like talking to the different stakeholders and groups of like what would that look like and certainly open to like discussing that and like what a framework for that would look like. And so
actually, thank you for raising that, Jason. But John put into the chat a link to that New York City Council legislation called from 2022 called Establishing a Legacy Business Registry and Preservation Fund, which on reading it recently seems to mimic to some degree or draw on ideas from the San Francisco program. And so I don't know, Bill, I don't think you do either, know what happened to that legislation, but maybe that's something that should be revisited. But let's go to Wendy McCava first. John, please. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. First, I wanted to thank the presenters for a truly wonderful presentation and really very exciting. And like Barbara, I've lived my whole life. Well, maybe Barbara, you haven't lived your whole life in Yorkville, but I've lived here both in the Carnegie Hill area and the Yorkville area for my whole life. And I've seen numerous changes and developments, and some are wonderful and some we, of course, miss some of our vendors. I would also say we have a lot of independent hardware stores that are left in our area, and those are wonderful places to get shower curtains, just in case you're looking. One doesn't even have to go to the big Rainbow, although we love Rainbow and other stores that have popped up. But I also want to mention that our population in 10028 and 10021, pretty much throughout CB8, is comprised of kind of two modal areas of population. One is young mothers with carriages, and the other is the largest sentient senior ambulatory population in the United States. And as I approach this population myself, we like to walk to our stores. We may order from Amazon, but it's really only if our supermarket is out and the CVS is out and all of the other places that we like to shop really don't have what we want. And so there is a lot of interest in supporting local small businesses. But I also want to say that I live in an apartment building, and like many apartment buildings built in the early 60s, we have an aging population in the building. And what that means is they're not very electronically plugged in. They will call us younger old people to get on the internet to find something or to use our cell phones. And so it wouldn't hurt. Somebody else mentioned that we don't know where to buy certain things. It wouldn't hurt to have, forgive me because I know paper can be problematic, but it is recyclable, some kind of guide that is available at shops to pick up or in one of the small kiosks that are at various corners that give some notice, some recognition of our local businesses and where we can go to find various things. In the olden days, before some of you young whippersnappers were alive, we had something called the Yellow Pages, and some of that was localized as well. So it could be time to bring some of that back. It's a very handy thing, and it has some enduring, lasting capability. And the other thing I wanted to say was when we see a lot of the smaller buildings knocked down, I know you've all heard me who have been here a while speak about the environmental effects of doing that. But when we do that, we replace it with large buildings with impressive lobbies, we haven't preserved that kind of streetscape that offers us both ability to purchase things from local vendors who are kind, remember us, and offer us street safety. But we lose some character of our neighborhood as well. And perhaps that is a larger zoning situation that we could, as a city, pay heed to and have some regulations that if you're going to build an enormous building, that you need to preserve some kind of street presence that will keep us safe and some character of the neighborhood will prevail. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Wendy. And the idea of these large new developments, having those, as you put it, impressive lobbies, also the amount of rent for, I don't remember which of our speakers said it, but the way they're financed is with an approach that requires a much higher rent than a lot of the small mom and pops could pay, which leads to and the large spaces that would be occupied by businesses, which leads to a definite significant decrease in the number of small businesses that populate a neighborhood. And maybe that's something that the city could look at. I just have a question, if you don't mind. And Juan, maybe you'll be able to answer this, which is, I made a note. So Greenwich Village, with a size mandate that it not exceed a certain size for these small businesses. The Upper West Side has a similar zoning regulation, and they had no information about whether that works to preserve small businesses. So I'm wondering, it sounds like from your experience down in the village that there is a positive correlation between the maximum storefront size and the ability of small businesses to fill those storefronts. And it was just a comment. Juan, did you want to say something before we go to Matt?
I was going to put something in the comment in response to the earlier observations about the need for a directory. If you go to the website thelocavore.com, you can search under neighborhood, and under the neighborhood, you can then filter by category of what you're looking for. But it is a comprehensive inventory of all the independent stores throughout the city, really. But obviously it is dynamic and it is updated only once every a couple of years. But for a snapshot, it is intended to serve that precise purpose.
Thank you. And we did have for a time a representative of the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, because it would seem that that would be something that the Chamber of Commerce could work with. Manhattan is divided into several sections, and the chamber has different representatives for each area, but maybe that's something that could be explored, or ways, because it also sounds from, if I may, from Rick in San Francisco, that having those kinds of promotions, those kinds of actual finger pointings at the specific businesses helps drive people, shoppers, lookers to these businesses and create that connection. I remember there's a, just very, very briefly, a diner that's been around in my neighborhood for 100 years. And during that last blackout in 2005, 6, whatever that was, they had, from their inception, gas-powered coffee makers. So they were able to open at 5 or 5:30 in the morning, which I think they typically do anyway, and serve coffee to the neighborhood, because all of the other electric places, they were closed. And so that's something that businesses, that was just a function of their longevity, but that potentially is an example of how legacy businesses, in addition to character and stability, can help support neighborhoods just because their equipment is old. But someone else had their hand raised, and I was talking a lot.
Matthew.
Oh, where'd he go? There he is.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. It's nice to see the CB8 after my name. Very nice. So thank you. No, thank you for everybody's presentation. It's great to be here. Certainly with the Department of Small Business Services, we use the BEST program all the time.
Matt, can you say who you are, or is that?
Yeah, I'm the president of the Madison Avenue BID for 26 and a half years, so I could be a legacy man. Yeah, so getting there. Yeah, that was that's our secret weapon, to figure out how to navigate things we call BEST. And we do give walking tours every month with AIA New York of the historic corridor and how historic preservation has helped our our businesses thrive. And so we, shout out to Greenwich Village Society. But a bunch of questions for Rick, actually. And, legacy businesses take many different forms. So just yesterday, Valentino Garavani passed away. It made all the news. He opened up his store first on Madison Avenue in June of 1970. And that business has been on Madison Avenue in a bunch of different storefronts. Now it's 654 Madison for, I guess, 56 years now. And I wanted to ask Rick, do you see, in terms of the businesses that are on the legacy, are there any sort of bigger stores or names of brands that sort of originated in San Francisco and that grew, but their first location, or that they've been there for a long time? So have you seen like a business like that become part of the registry?
Yeah, we mostly have small businesses, but we do have some large ones. We have Boudin Bakery, which is well known for their sourdough bread. And they've been here, I think that might be our oldest one. That goes back to like 1849, I believe. And they actually saved their sourdough starter during the earthquake and fire of 1906. We also have Anchor Brewing Company, which is kind of in a change of ownership right now, but they're also a pretty large business, and they're based here in San Francisco. And I would love to get Levi's on the registry. That'd be great.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. Is that Levi's? If I could think of San Francisco, I think of Levi's, and like that seems so important. Have they been approached, or?
I had a friend who used to work for them. I was trying to get them on, but somebody did mention them a couple of months ago, and she knows some people, so we're going to ask to see if we can get them on there. I'm housed within the Office of Small Business, but it doesn't mean you need to be a small business to be a legacy business. I also, Salesforce is coming up to their 30th anniversary, I think, in a couple of years. So, we're going to try to reach out to them as well. Yeah, we have a mix of for-profits, nonprofits, big businesses, small businesses, mostly small, but we do have some large ones on there.
So I wanted to ask about the process to getting on. So both for the New York State Registry, you have to have an elected official make a nomination, and with the proposed legislation that was just shown from former council member Rivera, was also you had to have an elected official. Why? And is there a way of, because you mentioned the narrative that has to be created. If a business is in the location for a certain number of years, they could show their certificate of incorporation. Why that process? Why the length of the process?
So if you go to the website, sf.gov/legacybusiness or legacybusiness.org, we have pretty close to the top all the legacy businesses that we've been able to find around the country. There's about 30 of them now, and you can kind of click, and all the legacy businesses or programs are a little bit different, and some have self-nominations and some don't have any nominations. And so, yeah, definitely don't think it's a necessary thing that you would need to do. I don't know why it came up in San Francisco. It predates me by about a year, because the program was created in 2015 and I started working in 2016. But like I mentioned, I kind of like it because it kind of keeps the supervisors engaged in the program, but it's definitely not necessary. You can do it without a nomination for sure.
And is part of the program succession planning? Has that been an issue, or how has that worked out?
Especially we draw the line at 30 years. So there's a lot of business. There are quite a few applicants who started the business. And so they're applying because they just hit 30 years and they're very close to that retirement age. And so, we try to stress in the application, hey, what's your succession plan? Because, the purpose is to keep the business going. That's the purpose of the program. But some of them apply, they get on the registry, they get recognized, they think that's wonderful, and then they retire and the business closes. And I'm like, well, we just did all that work to get you on the registry. And when you close or, you move out of the city, we have to actually remove you from the registry, and it looks like it's a failure. So we try to discourage that. But yeah, we'd like to do more succession planning. I think that's one area where we can definitely improve the program. We try to encourage businesses to look into employee ownership, and we have a couple of things on the website about that, but I'd like to do definitely more about that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's come up, been at meetings too, with legacy businesses and the issue of just getting the next generation to want to go into it, or how do you keep it going from the first set of owners. And the other thing, I love your networking events for businesses that are within the, has there been interchange of programming or each supporting each other? Like, how is that as sort of a business to business support system? How is that work?
That's another
That
thing.
seems really lovely.
Yeah, that's another thing I'd like to. So it's challenging because I'm the only staff person, and I'll be completely honest, I don't have strong support from my department. So that's challenging. Their department's doing interesting things, and we're not always including legacy businesses in that. So I think business to business would be great. We're constantly asking the businesses if they have any ideas on how we can, make that happen a little bit more seamlessly. But yeah, we could definitely do more on that. I think it's a great idea.
No, you're doing it. I mean, it's fantastic. All those programs, those events seem really wonderful. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Rich, I have a question for you. I'm not quite sure you mentioned this in your presentation, if I may have missed it. I'm just curious that how can equity be ensured so the program can benefit in diverse communities?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we have a lot of monolingual business owners here, especially the Chinese. We have a very large Chinese population. It's like 30% of the city, a lot of Spanish speaking. And unfortunately, I'm monolingual English. But we do have assistance from SBDC. If they want to apply and they have language issues, they can definitely get help from SBDC with the language barriers on that. And that's always available, even after they become legacy businesses, they can always work through SBDC. I also have coworkers who speak Chinese and also Spanish, and they can help with the monolingual populations here. And then I was going to say one more thing. I don't do a lot of outreach because I have a huge queue of businesses wanting to get on the registry. So I personally don't do a lot of outreach, and I actually discourage my coworkers from doing outreach. So we do have a lot of community groups themselves that encourage the businesses to apply, and we get a lot of diversity that way. So we have Japantown community group that gets their businesses from Japantown on the registry, and we have people in Chinatown and also in the Mission, which is a little Latino. So we do get a lot of diversity, and it just through the community groups mainly. So we're very lucky that the community is active in getting people on the registry.
And once a business is registered, and are there indicated that there may be a risk of displacement or closure? Are there mechanisms involved that you can assist the business?
Are they indicating that in their application? So we weren't not originally asking that in their application. And then we found a lot of businesses were applying because they were at risk of displacement, and they get on the registry, and then they would close like a month later. I'm like, you should have told us. We might have, instead of getting you on the registry, we might have like really made sure that you stayed open, that kind of thing. So we do ask that question now, what's your plan for keeping the business going? If they do identify that they're at risk of displacement, we do try to connect them with the services that we have in the Office of Small Business. And we have a lot of services that are very equal or comparable to the Department of Small Business services that Jason went over. We have a lot of that here in the Office of Small Business as well. So we try to connect them with help and try to figure out if they're at risk for displacement. Sometimes they just don't tell me. And then they put all this work getting on the registry, and then we try to make it really clear we're not a business rescue program. That's another thing that we do. We can't save your business, so we really try to let people know that so that they don't have unreasonable expectations. I would like to make it a business rescue program. I think that would be great.
I see. And one more question. From San Francisco perspective, are there a pattern that your office notice or observe which type of businesses are most vulnerable?
Good question. I don't have any studies on that, but I would tend to think that the retail establishments are probably struggling more than any others. And restaurants have such a small margin of profits. They struggle a lot too. Definitely the retail and the restaurants.
I see.
I have a question, Rick. You have a very robust branding program in San Francisco for legacy businesses. Have they commented, and you said that the legacy business program has actually been beneficial to these businesses. Do you promote using any of the branding so that people understand what it means in tourist publications, or whether it's international or elsewhere around the US, using that branding? Is there, because it would seem that like Shop Local, Shop Saturday, whatever Amex does, they get the stickers on the doors. Is that something that people tend to associate and understand that it works? And it is clever. I saw that, and you can't unsee it with the SF and the flame, as you point out. Is there, I guess there is a strong correlation there too.
So we design the logo so that it would kind of complement businesses, so they can, we do encourage them to put it on their website. We do have a window cling for their windows. We did have a bronze plaque program, that bronze plaques would go on the outside of the building, but that was challenging because the legacy business is connected to the business, not the storefront. So we had 50 of those, and that's probably our most in-demand item, and we kind of stopped doing that. We're going to do plaques that are made from brushed aluminum that can go in windows, and so if the business moves, the plaque can move too. But we would love to do something with SF Travel, and love to promote it more. As I mentioned, I would say the program's not very, I'm sorry, I know this is recorded, but you can watch our budget hearings from last year. They tried to get rid of my position, so nothing that's not factual. But program's not very heavily supported by my department, and so I find that really kind of a challenge. They have a program called Shop Dine SF, like Shop Dine SF, and you could put the neighborhood like Chinatown or North Beach or that kind of thing. And there is one Shop Dine SF legacy business. But I would like to have more robust support and more robust outreach to the travel bureau here, SF Travel. Yeah, and more help from my department, to be honest. That would be great.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I have some ideas.
I have another question for you, Richard. Any lesson learned that you highlight for New York City?
Any lessons from?
Any lesson that you learned that you highlight for New York City?
Yeah, definitely. So, one of them is when Matt was asking about whether or not you need letters of nomination or any kind of nomination, that may not be necessary. The grants, I included the lesson in my PowerPoint presentation. The two that the voters voted on, neither one of those succeeded the way they were written. Not having by the way, I mentioned in my presentation, not having a dedicated source of funding for the program. So I do have an idea for that, but that's going to have to probably go to the ballot and have the voters vote on that, maybe in November 2028. I'd like to have a dedicated source of funding for the program. That'd be great. Whether or not you want nonprofits as part of the legacy business program. Also, where, do you draw the line in terms of number of years? I think having this whole 20-year exemption is kind of subjective. What is at risk for displacement? We did try to define that in our rules and regs. But yeah, there's, I would look at all the different programs nationwide and what they do and see what works and what doesn't work. But the ones I mentioned are some of the things that come to mind.
Okay, thank you.
So let's just say that the New York City legislation that John posted the link to, it has some interesting proposals, including a bifurcated landlord, small business grant program, or other kinds of programs. Is it worth having some push to the city to revisit this? Is this something anyone would want to raise as a possibility?
If I could just jump in, I was working with the Department of Small Business Services a while back, and so that might have, I think, and you could see it's very similar to what we have in San Francisco. So that's where they came up with the ideas from. My cousin lives about a block away from that office, and so I was visiting my cousin, and I went into the office and visited them there. That was probably about 6 or 7 years ago, pre-COVID. So yeah, I was working really closely. I'm pretty sure that legislation came from the close connection I was trying to establish with the SBS office. I would love to see it. I think it would be great to see something in New York.
Is there anyone here on the community board who might agree with that? And thank you for doing that. I did notice the strong mirroring.
Yes. Jason, you have any information regarding this proposed bill that you may be aware of?
So I think with respect to the proposed bill, I think it was filed in a session prior to the last session. So it was, I think the status reads like filed end of session. In that, so I think that was 2023, the last time it was introduced. I haven't heard of anything like newly introduced or any intention for it to be like reintroduced, but I know that I think someone mentioned earlier being in conversation with Councilmember Maloney, and obviously I think with the speaker, it was her previous bill, and so like if in the case it gets reintroduced again, we'll be in close conversation with those offices as to like what they're thinking, how they want to structure it, and we'll like we'll like see what I think what their intentions are, and like based on like that conversation and the intention from the mayor, I think we'll move as intended, as is needed, and I think as we usually do with the city council, I think these things come into conversation. But I think ultimately, if the desire is for it to be proposed via legislation, that comes from our legislators at the city council level.
Yeah, well, I know Speaker Menon was a formidable force for small businesses, so maybe there might be an interest again. I can't speak for Maloney, but at least for Speaker Menon, she took great pride in her relationship with small and her interest in preserving small businesses. So I guess we'll see. Anyone want to propose anything before we thank all our speakers? And I do heartily thank San Francisco, Rick, thank you, New York, SBS, thank you, Jason and Greenwich Village, thank you, Andrew and Juan.
Thank you, everyone. We really do appreciate your time for this. It's a very important issue. You mentioned in your presentation, a lot of small businesses do need help and assistance. So it would be great if anyone has something to support a proposed resolution.
I don't see any hands, Bill, so I guess the answer would be no, not at this time. So we could only hope that legacy business value to the city, to their neighborhoods and communities is recognized at the city council level, and lessons taken from San Francisco, because I think, Rick, you did say that the businesses there have benefited from this program. Do you have any more detail about that?
Sure. Well, we tell the businesses, since, there's only so much we can offer as a one-person program, we tell the businesses to promote themselves as legacy businesses and to do that as much as they can to benefit themselves. So I have a couple of examples. We had a business owner whose landlord was trying to evict him. And the business owner's like, you can't do that. I'm a legacy business. So you're not allowed to evict me. And you should sell me the building instead. Like he really just kept saying you're not allowed to do it, even though it's not true. But I'm like, hey, just say whatever you want. Like, I can't force you to And so eventually the property owner relented, and, he says, well, I guess you're an important business. You're recognized by the city. So he sold him the building. So that was one great example. We had another one. There was they have a beer garden, and they were building a new development across the street, which was going to block their afternoon sun. And they said, we're a legacy business, and you'll ruin our beer garden. And so they lowered it by, 10 feet or so and made the top transparent. So, but, they promoted themselves as a legacy business. Yeah, it definitely happens a lot where they self-promote as legacy businesses, and it gives them leverage in the press and with the board of supervisors and the public, and yeah, it definitely comes in handy. I would say, if the city is not establishing a program, like maybe what happened here in San Francisco, the nonprofit organization started it, so maybe Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation wants to start one, and maybe have their own program, and then maybe that'll take, maybe the city would find interest in that. And that's what happened in LA, except I think when that does happen and the city does take it on, it usually starts from scratch. So maybe the work then kind of goes away. So, but still, it might be a nice way to kickstart a citywide program.
We have a lot of preservation groups on the Upper East Side. In addition to Carnegie Hill Neighbors, we have Friends of the Upper East Side and Civitas.
Great.
And there are the citywide preservation
Yeah.
groups. And I think if there were, I'm not sure that people are aware of the San Francisco or any of the other 30 programs that you mentioned around the country. Maybe with more awareness, there might be a recognition of what, in the same way that architectural and residential preservation, commercial building preservation helps build communities and helps create stability, plus a beautiful or interesting architectural area, that there'll be a recognition of the value of these businesses to the city and the strength of the neighborhoods and communities at some future point.
Yeah, I know you're CB8, and so you're a different area than the Greenwich Village, but since they were here, I thought I mean, mention it.
No, thank you. Well, we really appreciate your being here. Does anyone have any other comments or questions from the public, from the board, or any closing comments from any of the speakers?
Again, I just want to thank all the presenters, a very informative presentation. We truly appreciate your time. And again, thank you.
Thank you. And
Oh,
we're very grateful. Sorry, Jason, did you want to say something? Anyone?
Oh.
I thought I heard someone. It was very much appreciated that you were here, that you stayed until the end, and your presentations were thoughtful and detailed and informative. Michelle.
Lita, Michelle.
Yeah, I wanted to say it was terrific. Thanks very much, and move to adjourn.
Any opposition?